Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be going over all of the green cards for Bloomburrow. If you've missed all of our other colors and our introduction, make sure you guys go check them out. The introduction is super important. We go over returning and new mechanics as well as all the draftable archetypes, which will help you evaluate cards in the set. So check that out first. Welcome back, Yanks.
Be back as we wrap up our monocolors here with some squirrels and raccoons and frogs and wabbits.
Wabbits. Yes, it's Wabbit season. Oh my gosh. I am in love with this set. I'm incredibly excited. So let's dive straight in with Baker's Bane Duo. 2 mana for a 2/2. When it enters, create a food. What these colors want to be doing. Whenever you expend 4, gets a +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a little low impact, but for a common bear, squirrel, raccoon, same difference. Okay, so a bear is just a squirrel and a raccoon in a trench coat robbing people. That's what we've learned.
Yeah, in this case, they steal a pie. Other bears steal picnic baskets.
Hey, boo-boo. I think this card is fine. It's a 5. It's an enabler for Forage. I think that's good. And it's got 2 relevant creature types.
We're not old at all, referencing Yogi Bear.
Why you
5
gotta
works for me.
Why you gotta call me out like that? Next up.
Bark-knuckle Boxer. 1 and a green for a 3/2 raccoon berserker. Whenever you expend 4, it gains indestructible till end of turn.
Like Bare Knuckle Boxer? Cute.
Yep. This card's fine.
It's a good rate for a 2-drop, even if you don't have any text, like it's fine. And then every time you expend 4, you just get to a free send, and you're gonna get to send on turn 3 and 4. Like that's pretty hefty. It's gonna trade up massively and be tough for your opponents to deal with. I like this card a lot.
Solid 2-drop. Definitely slanted aggressively, but Gruul kind of wants to be spending all its mana every turn. They're not going to be, leaving stuff up for counter spells like in a blue deck or anything like that. So it's fine to play that before combat or in combat.
It's always threat of activation too. There's a chance where like you cast a small creature pre-combat and then you have like a pump spell or a combat trick somewhere else on the board. This gains indestructible. Yay! That's pretty cool. So I think this is a solid card that I am not cutting in just about any green deck. So 6.
A 6. I want to give it more just for the great flavor text. May your bark be worse than your bite.
Yeah, I like Bark-knuckle Boxer. That was a very, very clever thing there. Next up, we have the Bramble Guard Veteran. 3 mana for a 3/4. Whenever you expend 4, raccoons you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. Jesus! We are starting out so strong here. This is very good.
It's above rate. You drop it on 3 and immediately can trigger it next turn.
Yeah.
You imagine like curving your Bark-knuckle Boxer into any 4-drop.
Holy crap, this is just a 7. Like these are cards you get like very excited when you pick up for your deck. Pack 3, pick 1, you're like, yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is the vibe that you want for your cards that you start to get very excited for. So yeah, this is a 7 for me.
7.
Next up.
Bushy Bodyguard. 1 and a green for a 2/1 squirrel warrior, offspring 2. When this creature enters, you may forage. If you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it.
Okay, so if you just do it for 2, it's a 2 mana minus a food for a 4/3. Yep. Or for 4 mana and 2 foods, you get a 4/3 and a 3/3.
Or late game, you can pull things out of your graveyard.
Yeah. That seems good. And it's also 2 squirrels, which is squirrels a relevant creature type, which is not nothing. Even if you don't appreciate what the creature's doing on its own, that squirrel could be enabling something else or be getting a lot scarier due to whatever those activations are. Like that raccoon, just giving raccoons +1/+1 every time you spend your 4th mana for a turn. Like the squirrels will just get that value from other things. So
it's an interesting 2-drop that's on it at its actual worst on turn 2.
Yes. It's a good curve filler. It's nothing, I think, super exciting, but if you can get cards out of your graveyard or if you generate food, I think it's going to be at well above rate. So let's say 5?
I typically want to give a bunch of benefit to 2-drops that have something good in the late game too, but It's almost reversed here because this is terrible on 2.
Agreed.
So it's really like a 4 drop that can play better in the late game, but 5 works.
All right, Cash Grab, 2 mana for an instant, mill 4 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you control a squirrel or returned a squirrel card to your hand this way, create a food token as a bonus. So that's good for... So 4 cards plus return one of them is just a card plus a forage.
Yes.
And if you have a squirrel, you get an additional forage. So this is a really good enabler for a very specific deck. Otherwise, I'm not so interested.
Agreed. We see these kind of 2 mana, a lot of times it's a look at the top 4, not mill cards and get something. And they always seem to be like your 24th card.
Yeah. I definitely think that's what this is, but in that deck, it's going to be actually quite good. Like, this cycles itself and activates 2 forage effects.
Yeah, that's certainly good in the right deck.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 4. I think that's still kind of averagey. It's probably not making the cut, and it's probably like a 5 in the right deck.
Sounds about right. I like it at 4.
All right. Next up.
Clifftop Lookout. 2 and a green for a 1/2 Frog Scout with reach. When this enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land. Put that onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
I don't hate it. It just guarantees you the ramp. A lot of times people will spend 3 mana to ramp 1 and with no other like body associated with it. Here you're going to get a relevant creature type. It's going to kill all of the offspring flyers for free. That's cool. I think this card is solid. I'm going to give it a 6.
It's almost strictly better than ramp. The only different than the 3 mana find a land. The only difference is you can't guarantee the color.
Yeah, agreed.
But I'll take the body in exchange. 6 works.
All right. Next up, Curious Forager. 3 mana for a 3/2. When it enters, you may forage. If you do, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Yes. And I want these in multiples so we can loop them, right? Woo! Loop them, squirrels. Yeah, this is everything I want to be doing. This is also a 6.
6 as well. Card advantage built into a on-rate or close to on-rate creature.
Next up.
Druid of the Spade. 2 and a green for a 2/3 Rabbit Druid. As long as you control a token, it gets +2/+0 and has trample.
I was like, a spade? Why are they talking about poker? I was like, I guess he's a rabbit. Like, the Mad Hatter rabbit. Like, they have cards. Like, sure. And I was like, oh, it's okay.
It's the Shovel Spade.
Yeah. So this is it's an on-rate creature that if you have a token, which I don't think will be hard in this set, certainly not with rabbits, is going to attack as a 4/3 with trample. It's fine. I think it's a 4. Doesn't seem special, but it's a relevant creature type.
I think I would be a little bit higher, like 4.5, because it really just feels like a 3 mana 4/3. Because rabbits, even ignoring offspring, rabbits make a bunch of tokens. Offspring, we saw in white, offspring tokens. It doesn't say creature tokens, so food works.
So what's your rating?
4.5.
Okay. Next up.
Fecund Greenshell. 3 green for a 4/6 elemental turtle with reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2.
All of them?
Yes.
Shut up.
Whenever this or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand.
Huh, what? I mean, I'm just fine with a 5 mana 4/6 reacher. The rest of it is all just icing.
I mean, just on its own. It's a 5 mana 4/6 reach that draws a card, or gets you a free land drop.
Oh my god, that's so cool. How do I even rate this? 8?
I think it's an 8.
It's so weird, but also powerful.
They do kind of need to deal with this because eventually you're going to get to 10 lands. It might take a while, but you'll get there at some point.
He's not stabby, but he's very chompy. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Next up, we have For the Common Good, XX Green. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn. You gain 1 life for each token created this way. What? That seems really good.
It's 3 mana, make a token copy, 5 mana, make 2.
Yeah. I think 7's going to be not that hard and like incredibly powerful. I think 5 mana is strong. 3 is mopey, but like fine. For 3 mana, if you get a decent token, we're pretty happy. We'll see what kind of tokens we make. I think multicolors will be pretty good.
I think it's... You almost need to have really good offspring stuff, because we haven't seen any like 3/3 or 4/4 tokens anywhere. It's all like 1/1 rabbits or offspring.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm not thrilled with even 7 mana for 3 1/1s, unless they're stuff with pretty good abilities on the offspring side.
I think the synergy built into the set is going to be pretty good. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt there. We're not playing this and just copying 3 blank 1/1 rabbits. I think there will be some good stuff that we want to do this with. If you don't have a deck that wants this, then you're just not looking at this, right? It's a rare, so I'm willing to give it the benefit of like we are considering playing this card, which means I think that the outs are in the deck, if that makes sense. Because that's just how most rares are that aren't just dragons. So I think this is good. I'm gonna give it a 7.
We're definitely different on this. I think it's a 5. There's too much of a fail case for me on this card.
Fair. You don't have a lot of creatures, so. Next up, we've got the Galewind Moose. 6 mana for an elemental elk with flash. It's a 6/6 vigilance, trample, and reach. Vigilance reach is a nice combo. I like that a lot. It's massive.
That's just making Colossal Dreadmaw feel bad.
Why?
It's like 3 extra keywords.
He's not an uncommon.
Sure.
I like how now the moose and the leaf are now Canadian. Yeah, it's if Colossal Dreadmaw was Canadian. It's fine. This is nuts. This is just a 7. I'm hesitant to give an uncommon higher than that, but like, it's really strong.
Yeah, it's a 7. It still can die to a 2 mana black removal spell, and you've accomplished nothing for 6
But it has
mana.
flash. So like, you can still get them. You don't have to untap with it. Like, the restriction to untap with it is a lot less scary.
It is.
So.
But I'm looking curiously at a green player that's sitting with 6 untapped mana.
Late in the game, they're holding 1 card. It's like more often than not, just like they're holding their land, right?
It could be, yeah.
Next up, we have the Hazard Root Herbalist. 3 mana for a 1/4 Rabbit Druid. Whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If that creature is a token, it also gains Death Touch. That's useful. That's very useful. And it doesn't have to attack. So that's fantastic. It's going to turn all your tokens into a much higher value card. This is like a 6.
Yeah, I think that's about right. The making tokens, which so far we've seen are pretty much all 1/1s, into legitimate threats in combat is nice.
Next up.
Heaped Harvest. 2 and a green for an artifact food. When it enters and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic, then put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Pay 2, sacrifice this, you gain 3 life, the food text.
That's pretty nice. 2 lands for, I mean, it costs you 5 mana, but 2 lands and 3 life?
Kind of similar to the creature we saw earlier, right? We've played 3 mana ramp spells before.
Yeah, like if you want to splash, this is just premium. And even if you don't, like, this is just good clean ramp living. I like it.
And it's when you sacrifice it, not sacrifice it using its own ability. So if you forage this away, you still get the ability.
Yep, that's true. I like this card. It's a good enabler, and you're getting a lot for the 1 card, so It's not incredibly impactful
No.
on its own, so I don't want to rate it too high, but I'm certainly not going to cut this. This is like 5.5.
That sounds right.
I'm really high on green so far. Green's been really good.
Green has been good.
High Stride. 1 mana for target creature gets +1/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. Untap it. Now this is just a new name on a reprint, right? Like we've seen this exact same card plenty of times.
Yeah, there was a spider themed one of these at some point.
Now that rabbit looks a little thick to be on those stilts, but you know.
Well, it's because it's gotten the +3 toughness.
That's fair. He's a big thick boy. I like these combat tricks. They are always worth playing. I'm usually playing one of them if I can fit it in. So I'm gonna say 4.5.
I like this at 4.5 as well. It's the ability to just completely blindside people and steal a flyer is nice.
Yep. Next up.
Hive Spine Wolverine. 3 green for a 5/4 elemental Wolverine. When this enters, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Hive Spine Wolverine fights target creature token. Destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Great. I love all of those abilities. Your worst case scenario is a 5 mana 6/5. Seems fine. I like eating their creatures and I like destroying an artifact or enchantment, so 6.5?
6.5, yep.
The free artifact enchantment is just icing.
So nice.
All right, next up.
Honored,
Go ahead.
Honored Dre-leader. 2 and a green for a 1/1 squirrel warrior with trample. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control. Whenever another squirrel or food you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Honored Dre-leader. Oh, this thing gets big.
It does.
Enters battlefield. So if you have anything else, it gets that many counters, squirrels or food. And then every time one comes in later, you also get it. So there's no real punishment for putting everything out before this or holding it, or reason to hold it for after.
Nope. I played this actually in our commander game and very quickly got it up to a 6/6, even though I cast it as a 1/1. And like so many things just make squirrels or make food incidentally that you get some really, really good value from it. So I have zero problem with this this card being in your deck. Unfortunately, it's another one of those situations where it's a card that's very shoehorned into one archetype, not able to kind of dance back and forth between two. So it's in that way, it's a little bit of a split rating, but hard to hate on it.
It's interesting. It's yeah. No, you're right. It is kind of just really a Golgari card.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chance that it's still worth it in like maybe like Azorius, and you just like have enough food also that are like kind of working together. What else is maybe
you're probably not splashing this in Azorius.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I meant Selesnya.
Okay.
Where you have like some squirrels and a good amount of food for whatever reason. I don't know. Like each color has some support, but yeah, I just don't think it's going to be super common. So split rating, it's
it's uncommon.
Oh, shut up. It's gonna be like a 2 and then like a 6.
Agreed. 2/6 split.
Next up is the Hunter's Talent. Comes in, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a creature. So you get a bite for 2 mana. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 and trample till end of turn. Great. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. This is the best class we've seen so far.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was trying to think back to like White, which we did the longest ago, and if there was anything there, but certainly the best we've seen.
Yeah, this is
in the last few colors.
Not close. So very, very happy.
Yeah, you've gotten your card back right away on 2 mana. 95% of the time.
Yeah, agreed. So rating wise, I think this is just a 7.5. I think this could win games.
It can, and it's the exact opposite of the last card we saw, right? That this is good in any deck.
Mm-hmm. which has not been the case for the classes up till like now. Honestly, they've been like
Nope.
very, very specific.
Yeah. It is definitely best in Gruul.
I mean, it's best in green. Like, and it's in
Yeah,
green. Like, that's
true.
all that really matters. If this was like... So if I could see them shoehorning you into the specific archetype by putting these abilities on the red class.
Yes.
Does that make sense? But because it's on the green, this one's like self-fulfilling. Because the red is not the side that's giving you the 4 powered creatures anyway. It's the green side, so it's free.
Sure.
What was your rating?
Was I say 7?
Great. Innkeeper's Talent. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And doesn't matter what the rest of the words say. I'm playing this card. For 2 for 1 mana, permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1. Beautiful. For 4 more, you can. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many. Green is so good. What the fuck? This is very good. 7.5 again. I don't know. Maybe the last one was like a 7. I don't know.
I like this, just a little bit better than the last one. I had 7, so I'd say 7.5 now.
A 2 mana bite that also then gives you trample and larger creatures and draws you cards. How is this not an 8? Like, these are just both 8s. I don't know.
Yeah, they might be.
They're so good.
I guess neither one of them requires you to get rid of this, right? You can just go after your creatures, which they want to do anyway. So it does need some benefit, some help, but not.
But for the Hunter's Talent,
very little.
For the Hunter's Talent, what would we rate just the first one? 2 mana bite. It's a sorcery speed, so
sorcery
like
speed.
6.5, 7.
Yeah.
And then all of this other stuff, like that's got to be enough value. I'm just gonna give them 8s. I don't even know.
It probably is.
Next one is the Keen-Eyed Curator, green for a 3/3. As long as there are 4 or more card types among cards exiled with Keen-Eyed Curator, it gets +4/+4. You can pay 1 to exile a card from a graveyard, which is gonna ruin your opponent's enables and recursion spells. So yes, and it's a great rate. Yes, this is an easy 7.
I think so. This is going to be super easy to make a 7/7.
Yes. And also just ruin your opponent's day along the way.
It would be a little bit trickier if it was only your graveyard because, okay, there are definitely going to be some green archetypes that don't have a lot of spells in them.
You're going to nombo yourself too, which we don't want to do.
True. But, in some decks have a harder time getting lands in the graveyard, but between you and your opponent, it shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. You agree with the 7?
I agree with the 7.
Next up.
Longstalk Brawl. Green mana for sorcery with gift a tapped fish. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control if the gift was promised. Then those creatures fight. Fights just feel so bad after all the bites, but this is only 1 mana.
That's true. So the gift is just a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
That's better than a fish on average. Lets you kill a bigger thing. Yeah, I think this is very good for 1 mana. That's gross. This is just a 7?
Yeah, I was just looking at this. Weirdly, you can't kill the fish. Which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
because it's not there to be targeted. 7, I agree.
Okay, next up.
Next up, we have Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. 4 green for a legendary elemental bear. It's a star with vigilance and reach. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. When this enters, mill 4 cards, then return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Are there sack lands in this?
No.
Okay. So it's most likely going to be like a 7/7. You play it for 6, get 1 land back with the ability. And it's got Vigilance and Reach, which is a combo I really like. Great. It's not like a haymaker because it doesn't impact the board in a big way, except for mostly giving you a land or 2, which at 6 you don't really have to have. And then just dies to black removal. It's still strong, but with the keywords and how big it is, but probably just an 8.
Probably. I'll say I jumped a little bit when said there's no sack cleanse. There is Fabled Passage at rare.
Okay, that doesn't count.
No, I agree. 8 sounds good.
All right. Next up, we have Mistbreath Elder, 1 mana for a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Otherwise, you may return this to its owner's hand. I have to have a lot of ETBs that I want to use. Otherwise, I don't want this.
I agree. Although that is nominally what Simic is trying to do. Is reuse ETBs, so I guess the hope is you do have plenty of them. I'm trying to think of why you would want to return this to its owner's hand. I'm sure there's something.
I mean, I think it's just the punishment for not having it, right?
But it's a May.
Oh, it is a May. Huh. I'm sure there's like the other otters and stuff. Whenever you cast a frog, do X.
It could be.
So we'll see. I don't think I love this card. It's a 1 mana 2/2. So like if it's a May.
Okay, so I'm looking at the release notes on this card to make sure I understood it.
You have to return something. If you don't have anything else, returning it is a May. Right?
Correct. Yes. If you have other creatures, you have to return one of them. If you only have this, you do not have to return this. That's what the one note under in the release notes says.
Yeah, I don't like it. That is the way that I read it, and I have to have a lot of ETBs, otherwise I don't care. They have to be good, cheap ETBs, which the average deck is just not going to have. So I'm going to say that this is... I can't even give it credit for being a 1 mana 2/2, really, because like it's going to wreck the rest of my day. So this is just a very specific card. I'm going to give it a 1.
I think that's right. You're just not going to play this unless you have a very large collection of cards you want to be.
A very big build-around deck.
Yep.
Over Protect, 2 mana. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains Trample and Hexproof and Indestructible till end of turn. It's a lot of keywords.
It's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I always prefer my combat tricks to be 1 mana, but this is a lot for 2 mana.
Yep. 5? That's a lot of keywords. I'm fine with playing one of these.
I think 5. Yeah. Paw Patch Formation. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an instant. Choose one. Destroy target creature with flying. Destroy target enchantment. Draw a card. Make a food.
Flexible. Great. 5.
Yeah, your downside on this is cycle make a food.
Yep.
Fine.
Which is
5 marks.
Which is a major mechanic in this format. So, huzzah.
Yeah, it kind of double helps that mechanic, right? Because you make a food and you put something in the graveyard.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. In. Paw Patch Recruit, 1 mana for a 2/1 with Offspring and Trample. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. And if you Offspring this, you're feeling pretty good. Every time they remove a creature, you get a counter. So most likely you're casting this on 3. They remove this because it's the larger one or whatever. That one gets a +1/+1 counter. Then they have to use a lot of removal. But it has to be a spell your opponent controls, so it's not that big. But I think this is still good.
I think the card's fine. You're right in that the fact that the majority of times that stuff's going to get targeted, it's going to kill it anyway. So it's rarely going to get big.
But that's the thing. It's forcing your opponents to use mana on your, 1/3 drop.
Well,
which is
I don't
pretty
know if it is.
cool.
I don't know if it really is. Well, yeah, I guess it is because if you have they can't target the other things.
If they keep
So you
if they keep targeting your best thing and this thing just keeps
yeah,
snowballing on each other, then
that's true.
giving your like your other 2, 3, 4 drops more and more counters, that's a good day. That's a lot of work for effectively a 3-drop. And they give each other, they have trample, so as they grow each other, which is really cute. They remove your 5-drop and they both get a +1/+1 counter and trample.
Sure.
So
yep.
I think it's like a 7. It's a really good failsafe. I'm never cutting this.
Agreed. Yeah, you're gonna play this in every deck.
It is incredibly high impact for a 1-drop and can't ask for more than that.
True. Seven's fine.
Next up,
Peerless Recycling. 1 and a green for an instant with gift a card. Return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised, instead return 2 target permanents from your graveyard to your hand.
that's fine.
We've seen this a couple times, right? With gift a card where you basically get to choose is what I'm pulling more valuable than a random card.
Yes. And
so the optionality is nice.
I find that most of the time the like green get a permanent back card tend to be a little bit slow, but in a system where you have forage and maybe you actually, getting that extra card in the graveyard, there's otters if you're in if you're in like Gruul, you might want some triggers. It's a 4. It's playable, but like it's certainly nothing exciting.
Agreed. It's pretty medium. Unless you have... Like, this would be better in a set with like sagas, because they're going to go to the yard if you know you want them back. Stuff like that.
True. Okay, before we continue, guys, we're going to do a quick little shout out to one of our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Mtgnerdgirl. They have been sponsoring my content for a really, really long time. They have all of the premium products you need for your gaming accessories for TCGs. So deck boxes, sleeves, playmats. They even have special backpacks and stuff designed to fit deck boxes and playmat tubes and all of those things. And the product I want to show a special shout out to today is the new Bloomburrow set. Recently, Mtgnerdgirl got a contract to use real Wizards art. So you're going to start seeing more of these. And this is the first set in which they have really done it. And I am so hyped on these. I cannot wait to get them. So this is the entire, I don't remember what this promotion, what this like type of showcase card is called. It's like the, I keep forgetting the words, schematic, prototype, whatever. It's like that, but with like animals. So it's like got the sketches of how their claws work and their bone structures. It's very, very cool. So this is a thing that's going to be coming out with the release of Bloomburrow. If you guys would like more information, you guys can click the link down below and it'll take you to the informational page as well as a store finder to where you guys can get these for yourself. Just clicking on that link helps, even if you guys don't purchase anything, which you can't directly purchase through the website anyway. It's a good way to support this stream and help me make this content. Because they just look at those clicks and then they say, hey, Nerd doing a good job. Let's keep giving her money for coffee and dog food. So yeah, please click that link down below in the description of the video and check out all these new amazing Bloomburrow products, because you really should. Thanks, guys. Okay, back to the card review.
So they are officially called borderless field notes.
Field notes, that makes sense, yes. So, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get those. I'm going to buy them no matter what. Selfishly, I'm hoping that they send them to me because I am sponsored, so maybe, please. But I will be getting those. Those are freaking sweet. Next up, we've got the Polywallop. It's so funny. 4 mana for an instant. It costs 1 less to cast for each frog that you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to a target creature you don't control. At instant speed, and it's going to cost a little bit less for a 2x bite. That's pretty strong.
I love that it's got the giant fists like Polywallop or Poliwrath.
Yes.
And also great flavor text. We'll see who croaks first.
Oh my god, that is funny. I think this is very, very good. I'm going to give this...
Card.
Is this an 8? The mana cost would steer me away from it, but it won't be hard to have 1 or 2 frogs, which makes it pretty reasonable.
I think it's an 8.
Great. Next up.
Rust Shield Rampager. 3 and a green for a 4/4 Raccoon Warrior with Offspring 2. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less.
Yeah. 4 mana 4/4 that does some stuff.
There's a lot of 1-power creatures because of Offspring, so it's a lot of things that can't block this. Nothing super exciting, just a solid card. 4 power is relevant for Gruul, some Gruul stuff.
5.
5 seems good.
Okay, next up we have the Scrap Shooter. 3 mana for a 4/4. You can gift a card, and it has reach. When it enters, if the card was promised, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. This is a 4/4 for 3 mana with reach. I'm in. And then if you think a card will be better than what they've got on the board, great.
That just is Rocket Raccoon, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, it's a bow, but basically like a sort of homemade gun, like you would always have.
Yep, agreed. This card seems good. Easy 7.
Yeah, 3 mana 4/4 reach is just great, and there are definitely times I'm happy to give them a card to blow up an artifact or enchantment.
All right, next up we've got the Green Season, 6 mana. You get 5 paw prints as always. You can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, gains vigilance and trample till end of turn for 1. For 2, you can choose an artifact or enchantment, destroy all permanents of the chosen type. Oh, that's neat. And for 3, you can draw a card equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. That's a nice... Most of the 3 paws have been pretty like situational and like maybe your like average is like these two, but I actually think that this is going to be a lot more common to want to do the 3 and then also these guys, right?
Especially if you got like even a 3-power creature and you go put a +1/+1 counter, put a +1/+1 counter, draw 5.
Yeah. I think your high roll is like counter on 1, get a good swing in while also drawing 3 or 4. That seems like a good turn to me. I like this a lot. It's not game ending, but it is very strong. So let's say 7.5.
I'm going to say 8. It's not game ending, but it feels game ending playing against something like this.
Yeah, it certainly is going to change the board in a big, big way. Sticky Tongue Sentinel, 3 mana for a 3/3 with reach. When it enters, return up to 1 target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Up to 1, so you don't have to, so you get to re-trigger your ETBs, which is really froggy. It's an okay creature on its own. It's a relevant creature type. Got a good keyword. This is good. 6.
The other one was a 3 mana 4/4 reach, but it was a rare.
Yes.
6 seems good for this.
Next up.
Stocking the Pantry. Green for an enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. 2, remove a supply counter from Stocking the Pantry, draw a card.
It's pretty situational. Like, you have to have the counters. You have to have other things that are putting counters on things, but there are cards that do it. So it's a split card. You'll know when you want it, you know when you don't.
Counters are not they're not a specific theme for anything. Like,
No.
they've just been kind of randomly dotted around.
Yeah. And the one Squirrel that we saw did it at rare. We just saw another one that did it at rare or mythic even. What was it? Mythic? Yeah.
Mythic, rare, yeah.
It's not going to work
rare.
most of the time. This is like a 3 with the ability to play like a 5.
Yeah, so far in green, we've seen Mythic, 2 rares, and a couple uncommons.
Yep.
So yeah, 5 works.
Okay, next up, Sun Sower Druid, 1 mana for an 0/2. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and you gain a life.
All right, well, there's a common.
So this is a premium target for your frogs to be bouncing it back and forth, right? This is something that even
Definitely.
that first frog, when you can return a card every single turn, this is what you want. That's cool.
We saw some blue cards that were like, flickering things that you wanted to do in this. Another good target for that.
The problem is that this is relevant in frogs, whereas like the raccoons, even the squirrels, Even the lizards, they were good at enabling multiple archetypes or were just good in their own right. These frogs don't seem to be good in their own right. They need the frog simic synergy to do the thing. So that means that this is going to be a lot harder to pull off, and these cards will be a lot less powerful on their own without being built into a massive deck.
Yeah, it's very much an A plus B synergy archetype, and neither one of them is that great on its own a lot of times.
Yeah, so it looks like, an average Simic deck, it just means that the frogs just are not playable outside of Simic, which I don't think was the case for any of the other creature types that we saw. At least not as a whole. So this is a cool card, but it's certainly a split rating. It's like a 1 or kind of a piece that really makes your deck function and gives you a great 1-drop to recur and bounce often. So then it's like a 6. That's tough.
That sounds about right.
Next up.
Tender Wild Guide. 1 and a green for a 2/2 Possum Druid with Offspring 2. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on this creature.
Sick.
I mean, cheap mana dork that is still relevant when you already have 7 or 8 lands. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a relevant creature type. Possum's not a thing.
Sure.
But 2 mana for a 1 mana dork, or 4 for 2, and then it just gets bigger and bigger anytime you don't need the mana. Sign me up. I like that you don't have to put the counters on as a sorcery, so you don't get punished for holding it up as blockers or mana. I think this card is fantastic. This is like a 7. I'm excited to play these cards.
7 for me as well.
All right, next up, the Thornvault Forger. 2 mana for a 2/2. You can add a green. You can also forage, add 2 mana of any combination. You could pay 4, search your library for a squirrel card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. That's, even in a not squirrel deck, you're going to have some squirrels. And why would we ever turn down a 2 mana 2/2 that makes mana? And then that will also get me a couple of cards out of my deck? Yes?
Everything you said, nothing's wrong with this card. I'm not entirely sure if I like this more or less than the previous one, though.
I think I like them about the same. They're different. This one builds up in its own right, which takes time. This one gets card value out of the deck, which takes time. So I think they're both good. Why not both? Like, I don't understand the question. Like, we're for in green.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Exactly. If we're in green and we open this rare, we're taking it. Same as the other one. So
sure.
No reason to have to decide.
Well, we're in Play Booster World. They can both be in the same pack.
Okay, well then the question is how many squirrels do I have? I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess it's completely dependent on the squirrel count. And you're like, what if it's pack 1, pick 1? And then I'll just kick you in the shins and we'll have a new card. 7.
7.
3 tree Root Weaver. 2 mana for a 1/3 that makes a mana of any color. There's a lot of mana dorks.
I was saying we've entered mana dork section of the green.
Now the last 2 are rares. We don't usually see this many, but we don't have them at rare. So I like that it's any color. So green is the fixing color, which makes me happy, and he's very cute.
I can't argue with any of that. It's like a 6.
Yeah. 6 is good.
3 tree Scribe. 1 and a green for a 2/3 Frog Druid. Whenever this or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Yep, it's a freaking frog-specific card. I mean, it's a 2/3 for 2 mana, so it's playable. And then you have to have the rest of the archetypes for it to be any better. So
yeah, it's just, you're right. I mean, it's, I guess it's nice against like the black exile removal spell. Because then it works with that, but that's so corner case.
The frogs are just not good in their own right. They have to be built with Simic specifically. So they're all basically split ratings. I think that it's a good rate on its own. So we're just playing it at a 4.
A 4.
Yeah. And then hope you have some other frogs to do some synergy. Tree Guard Duo. 4 mana for a 3/4 rabbit frog. When it enters, until end of turn, target creature you control gains vigilance and gets XX, where X is the number of creatures you control. It's just a one-time deal, though?
First one of these duo cards, I think, that I don't see what portion of this is frog.
I think the idea is
I
that
guess
you bounce it.
ETB.
Yeah, so you can bounce it over and over
Yeah.
again to activate a
Okay.
pretty strong ETB. Like plus X and vigilance is pretty good. Like on its own for an ETB. Usually ETBs are like, something a little bit smaller than that, +1/+1 in vigilance till end of turn or something. So yeah,
That's fair.
I think it's the fact that it is just a stronger ETB than normal, which benefits you from if you can bounce it back to your hand.
Okay, that's
I don't like it. I think it's like a 5. I think it's a strong ETB on its own. Like, so I'm probably not cutting this as a 4-drop.
5 seems right. I mean, that's
Not exciting.
no, and it just feels very much just like a rabbit card, really.
Treetop Sentries, 4 mana for a 2/4 with reach. When it enters, you may forage. If you do, draw a card. I like it. 6.
I feel like there's a lot of reach in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Well,
is interesting.
There is a straight up bird archetype. So there are slightly more flyers than normal.
But that's blue-white, which is often flyers.
Yeah,
I
but
guess you
not
also
that
have bats.
many.
You also have bats, which all fly, which is not always the case for a second color pair.
Usually there's like a handful of flyers in each like color pairing, or like yeah, I think blue has like 5 flyers and then each other color has like 1. This is with between the bats and the birds, it's a lot more, I think, on average. So I think I'm pretty happy to have some some reach.
Either way, 6 makes sense.
Valley Mightcaller, 1 mana for a 1/1 with trample. Whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a counter on it. 7? Seems good.
They play this on one, and I go, uh-oh.
This is the first frog that's good in his own right.
Yeah.
It's going to heavily benefit if you're in a frog deck where you're making those triggers happen over and over again. You're flickering that 1/1 that puts a counter on things over and over and over and over again. You just get to do that every time. And then he's beefing up something else, and then this guy's getting stronger and stronger each time. But even if you don't have that, you're going to have enough frogs, rabbits, raccoons, and squirrels in your deck for this to just become a 6/6 pretty quickly.
For sure. I mean, you play this and you've got is it a 3 mana make 3 rabbits?
Oh, yeah. It does say enter. It doesn't say cast, right? So gross.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is good. 7.
Yeah, 2 counters for every offspring card. 7. Yeah.
Wear down, 2 mana for a sorcery. You can gift a card, destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Okay. I like the flexibility. Sideboard for me most of the time. We'll have to see what the artifacts look like, but I haven't seen a ton of enchantments and artifacts that I'm very scared of in the main colors. So for me, I'm going to say it's a 2 sideboard. Draft them moderately highly for your board.
Mostly, we've just seen some classes that we might want to get rid of, and I guess some lockdown enchantments. But for the most part, we've also seen a number of times where you get this effect for free already in this set.
Yep.
So this is probably a little lower than usual on my
You're
radar.
right.
If I have one of those already.
It was stapled onto like at least 3 creatures. 1 in white for sure, 2 in green already.
There was, I think, 1 in red that was just
Red was
artifacts.
artifact only, yeah. And I think there was one that was an enchantment only on a creature, black.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a little less valuable than normal. All right, that's the end of green. What do you think, Yanks?
Green seems very good.
It started out strong and then kind of fizzled out, which I noticed was the frog section. So I am sad. I think Simic will be strong because I don't think... Actually, yes, that's a good point. I actually think Simic will be one of the stronger decks, and here's why.
Because
their cards are not good in anything else. So if you're the only Simic player, no one's going to touch your frogs, which means you have great frogs. The raccoons, the squirrels... Most of them were like, yeah, I would play this even if I'm not squirrels. Like, this is a fine card. That was not the case. So if you can be the only Simic Frogger at the table, you're going to be nuts. You're going to have access to every single card opened. That's really interesting.
It is. I don't remember well enough from blue if that was true for all the blue.
It felt badly because the ratings were low because of the average deck thing that we put in our set reviews. But if you're the only one playing the cards because the cards are shitty otherwise, great. That's going to be so good. Huh.
Yep.
All right. Leave us a comment down below in the description. Let us know what you guys think. Don't forget to click those links for the sponsors because, again, it really does help me, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would check them out. You don't have to purchase anything. Just let our sponsors know that that I sent you. All right. That's it, my friends. We'll see you next time for Colorless, and don't forget to leave that comment. Bye.